What's up? I'm Ayla,
Hi, I'm Beth Ann.
and this is Let's Talk BL, a Boys Love podcast.
What's up, guys? It is that day of the week, Series Sunday, where we talk all about one series and one series only. So, hope you've watched this series. If not, you're going to be spoiled. Go watch it, come back, or stick around and find out if you want to watch it.
Sure.
I'm really excited about this Series Sunday because I watched the show as it was airing. So I feel like I had a little bit of a different experience because I was like able to process each episode a little bit more, maybe, than like Ayla binge watched it. And so you kind of get like everything all at once. This week we are talking Light on Me.
Yes. So, yeah, as usual, we'll run through the basics and then we'll get into the show. First things first, Light on Me is available in a few different places, but you can watch it on Viki if you're in the States. There are 16 episodes, which is really long for a Korean BL, which is
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah.
And the episodes are longer too than kind of normal for Korean BL. So the episodes range between 18 and 30 minutes each. We will start with our little love triangle in terms of cast intros, but let's be completely honest. There's a cast member that's not in this love triangle that is really, truly the only cast member that matters. But that being said, let's start with Woo Tae-kyung, who is played by Lee Se-on. And then, of course, No Shinwoo is played by Kang Yoo-suk. And then Shin Daon is played by Choi Chan-yi. So it's our little love triangle. Synopsis. So roll right into the synopsis. It is a very long synopsis. This is going to take forever. If you just want to like fast forward through the synopsis, go for it. But like we're going to read it. It is what it is. So Tae-kyung is an 18-year-old high school student. He is also a lifelong loner. But one day he starts questioning his own judgment and tells a teacher that he no longer wishes to be alone. The problem is, he has no idea how to start going about making new friends. The teacher advises him to join the school's student council. He agrees, but discovers that making friends may be harder than it seems. He meets the vice president of the council, Shinwoo, who is cool and level headed, but also somewhat cold toward him and reluctant to accept Tae-kyung. However, he also meets the super attractive president of the council, Daon, who appears to take an instant shine on him. The beginnings of a romance appear to be in the cards for Daon and Tae-kyung, but Shinwoo does not seem to approve. Matters are further complicated by the fact that Daon's close female friend, who secretly loves Daon, is jealous of their closeness and attempts to drive a wedge between them.
Oh my god.
Okay, not only is this synopsis long, it's also like partially inaccurate.
Yeah.
In terms of synopses, like, I don't know, 3 out of 10 stars. Like, not great.
No. I feel like it gives you like a bits and pieces.
But also not... like, is So-hee really secretly in love with Daon? No, literally. No. And okay, if we're gonna jump into the show, actually, So-hee is a very interesting character, but it's pointed out even later on by Tae-kyung that the first time she meets him, she's like, "Hi, I'm So-hee, and I've loved Daon for the last 3 years." It's literally the first thing she says. So how can it be a secret? I don't know. No. 3 out of 10 stars synopsis. Not here for it. Sorry.
It's not a secret. The plot of this show, let's like jump into the plot of the show, I find was very interesting because there's not a ton of story necessarily. It's more of like a description of these characters. So like you're kind of just watching their daily life in school, which I think is really cute. And I think each character has like a good amount of screen time that you get to see each and every one of them on their own. I thought they developed these characters really well. There was no character that like I necessarily wanted to see more of or see less of. I mean, there are definitely times throughout the show that I'm like, okay, I don't want to hear any more about Daon and So-hee. Like, let's move on.
I don't know. I feel like I really, really liked this because, and to be fair, I have not watched a ton of Korean BLs. To be fair, I haven't like not nearly as many as like I've watched of Thai BLs
Right.
or Taiwanese BLs, but
Yeah.
I've watched some Korean BLs, and what I love so much about this one is it's a K-drama.
It
Right?
is.
This is
Yeah.
not like it is a Korean BL, but it's not like a Korean BL in that I feel like the other Korean BLs that I have watched specifically, which again is just a handful, don't really follow the like K-drama formula. It doesn't feel like a K-drama. When you sit down to watch a K-drama, like you sit down and it feels like a K-drama. That doesn't really happen with other Korean BLs.
Right.
But with Light on Me, like this is a K-drama. And I loved that so much because like K-dramas are my roots. I liked K-dramas before I liked K-pop. In fact, like the K-dramas are the reason it took me so long to get into K-pop is because like I had some weird hang up about like I can't like K-pop and K-dramas. That would be too much. But this feels like a K-drama. It has all of the K-drama tropes. It has all of the K-drama, like the formula, which, if we're talking about plot, I want to get into because, like you said, I didn't watch the show while it was live. I binge shows. I do not watch shows live. There are only 2 shows that I have ever watched live in my BL time. Yeah. One of them was because war was in it, so like duh, always on that war agenda. Right. And then the other one, 3 episodes. The other one is Don't Say No, like I'll just say, and it's because like TikTok reeled me in. TikTok really done got me on that one. So I didn't know, even though this show was so hyped up, everyone was talking about it. I waited. I was like, I'm going to need to binge this. So I waited. And it it was awesome. But I mean, everybody, while this show was live, I remember was like all in their feels and like having a whole moment about like who's he gonna end up with, like will it be Daon or will it be Shinwoo, like I don't know, like I'm team Shinwoo. If he ends up with Daon, I'll be so mad. Or there were some people like you who were like, I don't care who he ends up with, and everybody was like, well, it's because the novel is y'all this is a K-drama through and through K-drama. And when I tell you, like, I am not a BL expert. I'll just say it. Like, we joke about like expert opinion or whatever, but like, come on.
I know.
Like, I'm borderline a K-drama expert at this point in my life. Like, it has been years and years and years and years of K-drama, like binging. So, this is straight up a K-drama, which means the first boy he sees is the boy that he's going to end up with. Yeah. It's always how it is. Every single one. The first boy we see in this is Shinwoo. It is very obvious from the very first episode, like 10 minutes into the episode, it's going to be Shinwoo. I don't know why. Like, I'm sorry. Maybe it was different if you were watching it live. But like for me, 5 minutes in the first episode, I was like, I understand who he's going to end up with. I get this. And so that's why I don't understand why everybody went through it. But maybe it was different if you were watching it live.
Yeah, I was watching it live. And I remember it's funny because Tara did this whole little like TikTok about how this was based on a novel that was like open-ended. Right. Like in the novel, they didn't tell you. So when I found out
that, or it was like, was it like a choose your own adventure kind of thing where like you could, if you read the novel, comment or send us a DM or something and tell us like how wrong we are. We love when y'all do that. But I want to say it was more of like a choose your own adventure. Like as the reader of the novel, you could kind of decide, you could pick the ending you ended up with.
So when I found that out, I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I kind of let go of the idea that he was going to end up with one, or that they were going to like show you that he ends up with one specifically, which I was actually okay with because Taekyung as a character was somebody that I just loved.
Yeah.
Through every moment, like his emotional development, his like just the whole development of his character, he was somebody that I was on his team, and the decisions he made, I totally got. I was like, yes, if you want to do this, do this. If you want to do that, do that. Like I never felt like he acted overly emotional. I felt like he made decisions based on like less totally emotional like first love type of thing. I thought he like thought through his choices. And so, which I thought was interesting, and I was telling you this, that I was okay if he ended up with Shinwoo because he didn't like Shinwoo in a romantic way until after Shinwoo started taking care of him and was like actually genuinely nice to him. He had moments at the beginning where they were like, "Oh, you hate me. I'm going to make you like me. Like we're going to like make this a friendship eventually." But there were no feelings of affection until there was like validation on Shinwoo's part towards Taekyung, that it was like, hey, I'm like a genuinely nice person. I think Shinwoo was being mean because he was trying to set boundaries, which you learn later in the show that like he had this whole situation middle school, he was made fun of, he was trying to like stay away from that drama. And so he was like, I am super guarded and I'm not going to like get myself into this mess again, especially if like, whatever. And
Whatever. I'll be
so
the unpopular opinion. Shinwoo never hit for me. I'm sorry.
he
Here's
was
the
so cute.
thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Yes, tell.
I Kang Yu Suk. So cute. Okay. He reminds me so much of Jin Young. If you're Got Seven fan, like obviously over here. But like
Yes,
literally, like
bias.
he looks like Jin Young to me. Like I feel like they look similar. And also
Yeah.
he's mean like Jin Young. Like, come on. Jin Young's pretty mean. Like
But
I
only at
feel
the
like
beginning. He wasn't mean towards the end when like he warmed up to everybody.
Mm, that's debatable because here's like so he just never really hit for me. And
Mm,
for me, this was very much a situation like again, it like coming from my K-drama roots and so I knew this was going to happen.
yeah.
I am very familiar with this. This is a She Was Pretty situation for me. So if you've never seen She Was Pretty, it's a K-drama with Park Seo Joon and come on, it's Park Seo Joon.
Yeah.
Like you are supposed to fall in love with Park Seo Joon.
He was the worst.
He was the worst.
Also
And who is this like
next to Siwon Choi, like
next to Siwon Choi?
you can't lose with
And
either one of them.
right. And I'm sorry, but she picks the wrong
Oh,
boy. She
100%.
picks the boy, and it's the same situation in the sense that like Park Seo Joon is super mean to her in the
Yeah,
beginning and then warms up. And then it's like a situation where it's like, I understand why you picked him, but I still think it was the wrong choice. And like you still made the wrong pick. And like I'll even accept
totally.
that like he's a better dude by the end of it, but it still should have been Siwon. Like
Yeah,
it still would have
100%.
been Siwon Choi. And so like this is a Light on Me was a She Was Pretty situation for me where I was like, look, I get it. I understand why you picked Shinwoo in the end,
Right.
but like, nah,
I
for
also
me it was Dawn the whole time. Shinwoo just never hit for me.
Here's the thing about these types of situations is that you never want to get into a relationship with someone who is like still searching for who they are. Like that is a pretty toxic like relationship kind of composition where you have someone who's like figuring out who they are, figuring out what they like, but they also like this person. And so that's bringing up a lot of issues. Whereas Shinwoo had kind of already been through that and had already dealt with the fact that he was gay and that he liked boys and that he was coming to the situation just liking Taekyung, whereas Daon had like a whole like situation with like his sexuality, his family, the expectations of like his peers. Like there was a lot going on for
I would
him.
argue though, and I said this from the beginning. I was like, okay, if we're talking about toxicity and like what is a toxic relationship?
Yeah.
The trope that if a boy is mean to you, it means he likes you
Mm,
is honestly the worst. It's the
yeah.
worst for everyone
And
of
it
all
starts in like
time ever.
elementary school for us.
And that is what is set up here is this grumpy boy who's kind of mean to you and
Mhm.
doesn't really talk to you. And anytime you ask him something, he's like, Ani, right? And he won't admit to things. And he
Yeah.
like is closed off and weird and mean to you. And like him being mean and shy and closed off equals affection. Sorry, but that's toxic. And that is 100% how people end up in abusive relationships.
Totally.
In this case, do I think that Shinwoo is like this abusive, like horrible person? No. But romanticizing the idea that like this boy's being mean to you because he likes you and isn't that cute thing, nah, doesn't hit for me.
I thought this was different in that, again, I felt like there was no interest on Taekyung's part in Shinwoo until he realized he was being mean to like push him away. He wasn't being mean,
right?
To,
but
like,
what I'm telling you is like
attention.
that whole situation of the like he's being mean because he likes you and there's something else going on. Like, no, you're not allowed to like. Don't be mean to people. Which brings up a whole different part of the show. Like, if we're moving on Daon versus Shinwoo, like, if you're listening to this, you've watched the show, you've made your decision. For me, it's Daon. Like always, Shinwoo just never hit for me. I understand the decision, never hit for me. But this whole conversation brings up another really important part of the show, which is just like frustrated the mess out of me. Which is after Sohee has like posted the picture. And everyone is like spreading the rumors about Dawn's gay, the president's gay, right?
Yeah.
And then these two straight boys in the show, God, and I was so just like heated and upset and mad. They're like, yeah, I kind of knew he was gay because he has that quality about him. And one of them is like, what do you mean that quality? And he's like, he's just like nice to everyone. And like, he was nice to me. So you're admitting straight boys, God, men are the worst.
So
men are awful.
So like
essentially what's happening is they're admitting that you should only be nice to somebody unless you have a romantic interest in them.
Yes.
Toxic. And
so then, this is where we can introduce Namgoong, which
Namgoong
is
again
truly the best character ever created in the history of all characters.
In the end, if they got rid of this love triangle, if this ended up being an open-ended thing and we didn't find out who Taekyung ended up with, I would be okay with that because probably by like episode 2, I fully was like, the only character that matters in the show is Namgoong.
Yeah, 100%.
And so Namgoong, who I am fully obsessed with, is played by Go Jin. And Go Jin is a perfect human. And Namgoong is a perfect human. And I am just like, everything about Namgoong is so good. He lives up to this like this standard that is set in Thai BLs, which are like the friends for the most part of the best. Of course, there are exceptions to this rule. You know, long. But of course, there are exceptions to this rule. But for the most part, it's particularly in Thai BLs, the friends are the best.
So good.
Namgoong knocks every other friend out of the water. And I will say that definitively. There is no friend that is a better friend than Namgoong. And 100%. Here's why. Because he calls them on their crap when they need to be called, but he does it in a nice way and he does it in a supportive way. And we can go ahead and introduce Sohee at this point. We've talked about her a couple of times. But Lee Sohee, who's the girl who's like in love with Daon in a very like toxic way for most of the show, is played by Young So-hyun.
But speaking of toxic, there's actually absolutely no toxicity in the character of Namgoong.
No, like, Namgoong is perfect. Everything about Namgoong is perfect.
Because I love the moment that he has with Daon after it's come out, like the rumors have started and they're talking about like who he might like or whatever. And he just comes in the room and is like, I like you. He was like, who cares what anyone else says? Like, you're my best friend. I'm on your team. Like, just
when he literally says, like, forget about all the rest of them. You'll always have me.
I know. I mean,
but also
like the purest way possible.
Here's what's great about Namgoong is, and for me, again, I binged this, so I had a little bit of a different experience with Sohee than everyone else did, where, yes, for the majority of the show, I was like, she's the Earth's worst.
Totally.
She is the definition of the, like, toxic, awful girl character in a BL. She also was, like, desperate and
Oh,
weird
so
and like
desperate.
possessive.
Yeah.
Nobody is your property, in case anybody's wondering, even if you're dating them.
Yeah.
But even when all of that happened, and Namgoong is like low-key mean to her the whole time, which is very validating.
Except they totally let on that like Namgoon is possibly
Likes her.
interested,
Yeah. Which he deserves so much better. But I love him. And if this is like a Two Moons situation for me, where it's like, I don't actually like Peepaw, but if that's what, like, if that's what
YO
Yo
one.
wants, yeah, if that's what Yo wants, then like, yeah, I'm into it for you.
Yeah.
Same situation for me with Namgoong. Like, if he likes Lee Ho-si, like, I think she's awful, sort of. But if that's what he wants, I like him so much that, like, yeah, boo, like, let's get it for you. But when everybody is like scorched earth on her, and I kind of had the same reaction in that episode where she posts a picture and it comes out. I had that same like scorched earth sort of like gut reaction.
Totally.
But as the rest of it progressed, I think she genuinely had a character arc, and I think she genuinely saw the way that her actions affected people and affected people that she cared about.
Yeah.
And I think she changed. And I think that, like, we can't go scorched earth on people and be like, never again, like, you don't deserve anything good, like, you know, whatever. If they genuinely learn from their mistakes, because isn't that the point? Like, why, is there another point of calling someone on their mistakes if you're not going to give them a chance to learn from them? Well, and I think she genuinely did. And so when everyone else had gone scorched earth on Sohee, including Daon, by the way, Daon was like, I never want to see you again.
Rightfully
and like
so.
he finally stood up for himself. And I was so proud of him for that, because I really thought he would be too nice for his own good.
He needed space.
But he really stood up for himself to her. But Namgoong was like, listen. Like, he was sitting there with her, and he wasn't mean to her, and he didn't tell her like, I never want to see you again. Yeah. He was like, you did a bad thing. You did a bad thing, and you have to apologize for the bad thing that you did, and you have to learn from the bad thing that you did. Otherwise, it was all useless. And he just like really gets through to her, and he's like supportive of her, even though he's kind of like scolding her, and she's not even really his friend. And that is just like, Namgoong is the perfect character. He's perfect.
And I will say the important part about her character development is after there is an admitted change, there are actions that are solidly to back up her character change. The fact that she goes to Taekyung and gives him like a present and is very honest.
love that apology. She very much was like, she's like, I genuinely want to apologize to you for what I did. Yeah. And she didn't even like make a big show of it, right? It wasn't like,
about her.
And it wasn't about showing that she said sorry to him.
Right.
It was that like, she was like, took him privately. I loved that scene for her and for Taekyung, because I think that Taekyung was like really handled it well. And here's the other thing that I loved about that scene. And because I think it says a lot of these characters. When Taekyung is talking to her and he's like, I just always wanted to be your friend. Yeah. Oh my God. Must protect. First of all, like, there was a point in the show when I was watching, I was like, Taekyung don't need no boyfriend. Yeah. Like, we need to protect Taekyung. He's too pure for this world. He doesn't need, and no boys are allowed to talk to him ever.
Totally.
But like, he says to her, he's like, the first time I met you, you said to me, I'm Lee So-hee. I've liked Daon for 3 years. Yeah. And he's like, I thought that was so cool. And I thought you were so brave. And I just wanted to be friends with you. And I was like, what's nice about that is it points out her sort of like juxtaposition to Daon, who is not brave. And that's another part of the show I really want to talk about, because I was watching so it killed me as it like the person in this conversation that wanted like Daon to be the boy in the end, when they're on the field trip and he's like bandaging up his forehead and Taekyung gives him an opportunity. He gives him 2 opportunities, by the way. I'm sitting there screaming at the screen. I'm like, just be brave. Just be brave. Like, you can do this. Like, I was pulling for Daon. and he couldn't be brave. And I think I even said that to you. I think I even texted you and I was like, he got 2 chances and he just couldn't be like, all he had to do was be brave.
Which Shinwoo says at some point in the show.
Yeah, then Shinwoo says it later and I was like, whatever, Shinwoo. Like, I was like, Shinwoo, get out of my head. Whatever. But like, here's the thing is he's right. And I even made a note of this. Like, it doesn't make him a bad person and it doesn't make him a bad boy and it wouldn't make him a bad boyfriend because he couldn't be brave in that situation. Not everybody can be brave when you want them to be. And on top of that, like, we cannot you can't judge other people for like what their impossible situation is. So like he really felt like he was in an impossible situation with like he represented the whole school. So like he was the president of the student council, which means he represents that school and he very clearly took that responsibility seriously.
Yeah.
And he also like we're set up from the beginning to understand that like because he has this whole combo with Taekyung about it, that like he takes like he wants to make his parents really proud and doesn't want to do anything that might potentially like embarrass them. But he also, and again, like, damn, sometimes you can just be a nice person for the sake of being nice. I hate this whole conversation around like he's nice because he has an agenda or he like shouldn't be so nice to people because it gives them the wrong idea. In case you're wondering, somebody can just be nice to you for the sake of being a nice person. Yeah, so like he has that whole situation going on where like he feels responsibility to other people. And he clearly is thinking about Sohee and how this is going to affect her. And so like he was in an impossible situation. And I just feel like he really deserved more slack for that. Because he wasn't brave in that situation, but not everybody can be brave when you want them to be.
No, and that's what I was saying earlier with the fact that like I never wanted him to be with Taekyung because I wanted Daon to have the space to figure out who he was and what he wanted, which is the conversation that we get from Daon and Taekyung at the moment where Taekyung has like Daon has confessed to Taekyung and Taekyung is like, I'm actually gonna try this with Shinwoo. And in that moment, he's like, I really genuinely liking you. And I want you to know that like, I don't regret it, but I want you to be true to who you are. And I want you to figure it out. And in that moment, you realize that he could never have been in a relationship with Taekyung because he didn't know who he was. And he hadn't really figured out like who he was responsible to, because there were so many different people outside of Daon that he was responsible to. And it was interesting because that whole episode where the rumor has come out and Taekyung's really concerned for Daon and Daon is like seemingly only really concerned with himself. It's in that moment where he realized like, oh, I have no idea like who I'm trying to please too many people and therefore like I'm never going to like be able to kind of meet someone where they are to be in a relationship with them. And I thought the way that they handled that whole situation where there was never a moment where you write off a character, like what you were talking about before, where it's like none of these characters were ever completely like written off. There are never moments where you're like, you get no second chances, whatever. Like these kids are still in high school. Come on.
Right.
Like,
and
give them some freedom.
I don't know. I feel like, so in that moment, that scene you're talking about on the bench when he's like, don't say you're sorry, say thank you for liking me and that whole thing. And then Taekyung is like, do me a favor. And Don's like, okay, what's the favor? And he's like, I want you to do whatever it is that you truly want to do. And it's in that moment that Daon realizes that he's like, okay, well, I want to like you. He's like, I want to like Taekyung. And that's what I feel like what you're talking about. Like you get to see this build up and you don't see as much of it because it is towards the end, but like he kind of, when people start to take advantage of him, he's like, no, and he shuts it down and he sets boundaries with Sohee. And he like all of these other things happen where like he does make that exact decision that you're talking about. And so I think they fully could have been together. Like, I disagree that like he never could have been in a relationship with him, because at the end he does the thing that you're saying he needed to do. Like, he does the thing.
Yeah,
So
but I think it was too new because he still hadn't really figured out, like, he was starting to make the choices to get himself in a place to be in a relationship, but I I think he was still kind of trying to like figure it out. And again, he's older than Taekyung. So like he's
right.
about to graduate and there's that whole other thing where it's
Although
like
this whole thing is very confusing about the who's graduating and not graduating and how old they all are,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because Taekyung says at the end that he's 18,
Right.
but he's a sophomore, and it's all very weird and confusing. And
Yeah.
unless the grades work differently in Korea, which I don't think they work that
I
differently,
don't think so either.
it makes no like chronological sense. Because yeah, Taekyung is saying that at the end he says he's 18,
Right.
and Taekyung and Shinwoo are in the same grade. And Daon is supposed to be older than them, but there's a moment in the show where he's like, it shows him leaving the group chat, and it says he's in the 3rd-year group chat.
Uh-huh.
And he says he's graduating next year, which would make him a junior. So is he like a 19? You know what I just realized? It's Korean age. He's not 18 Korean age, he's 16.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's 16.
That's the difference.
Like, as I'm talking through this, as I'm like, this makes no sense, it's Korean age.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
literally when I was about to say, does that make him like a 20-year-old senior? And then I realized in Korea, 20 years old means you're 18 years old, is what dinged for me in my brain. He's 18 Korean age. So again, these kids are really young.
Yeah.
Like,
the other thing I really liked about Shinwoo through this whole situation that really kind of won me over for him for Taekyung is when he's having conversations with Daon about Taekyung, I never felt like Shinwoo was trying to like make himself look better. Like the moments where he's like, I relate to you, Daon. Like, I have been where you are. Like, I want you to know, like, he was their friends first because Taekyung was like, a transfer student. So, like, he was like, I think this was his first year in the school. And so, like, he's the new person introduced to this. And so, throughout the whole story, you get Shinwoo being a true friend to Daeon, even though, like, he does have, like, an iron in the fire, so to say. Like,
well, Shinwoo, I don't think Shinwoo's a bad person by like any stretch. I think that if we're talking about things that you need to like work through before you should be in a relationship, it really should be like, I don't know, not being mean to the person that you like, and not like lying to their face and like trying to hide things from them. But I'm just saying they both have their things to work on.
Yeah.
I don't think that means that Shinwoo is a bad person. Like, Shinwoo, is a good friend to all of the people that he's actually friends with. He also is like, he has this really nice moment with Taekyung where he's like, that night when they have the sleepover, which I really want to talk about this scene because I love that whole like series of events so much. There's so many K-drama tropes. There's just so much to it. But he says to him, he's like, listen, I'm Dawn's friend, and here's the situation. And this is right after he said basically what I said, which is not everybody can be brave when you want them to be. And he's like, tonight I'm Taekyung's friend, which it just like got me right in the feels, because the moment that I decided Taekyung was like a must protect kind of boy was in the beginning where he's like, Hana 친구 없으세요? Where he's like, I don't even have one single friend. And so then when this boy is sitting there and he's like, but I'm your friend tonight. He says to him, he's like, so do you want me to curse him out? Like hate him for as long as you need to hate him for kind of situation. Like,
Shinwoo best friend.
It was so nice. So I don't think he's a bad person. I just like, again, he just never really hit for me in terms of like romantic partner.
Right.
Personally, I think Taekyung should have no boyfriend, if I'm being honest with you. Like,
he's too young.
Also, like, must protect whatever.
Yeah.
But so I love this sleepover scene. for so many reasons. Number one, God, it got me right in the feels when he's like, I've never had a sleepover before and I want to try it.
Which is so cute.
I will cry. Which brings me to my next favorite part, where he literally says to him, Taekyung says to Shinwoo, if it wasn't for you, I might have just passed out in the street crying. Mood. Same. Been there. Like, I don't know, basically every day of my life. Like, truly, there have been times when I'm like, yeah, if it wasn't, like, I could have straight up passed out in the street crying.
Yeah.
100p.
Taekyung
Like,
is an
I
excellent
feel
crier.
that.
We talk about this a lot just in shows with in general, like ugly criers versus like really pretty criers. Taekyung as a crier, solid. Like the whole like his
I feel
sobbing
so hard. The
his
sobbing.
his sobbing was like, I mean, nobody does it like Kahoy, no one, but for K-dramas, this whole like
This was some good
emotion,
crying.
solid.
So another part, so also they have the whole like eating ramen together thing, which is like so funny and pure, but like you get the joke.
Yeah.
And also my next favorite, again, this is just what I love so much about this is it's just a K-drama, which I think is a lot of progress for BLs in Korea.
But yeah, it definitely moved the bar up, I think.
Yeah. But what I love about this next thing that happened is there are some quintessential K-drama moments. Again, just like how in the beginning I said I could immediately identify who was the second male lead and who, right? Like,
right.
There are some K-drama moments where it's like instantly recognizable. One of them is the fall asleep on the shoulder on the bus. And so that happened in this episode, but there was no bus. Like, groundbreaking, truly groundbreaking. We had the like shoulder fall asleep, but they're not okay. And maybe not even a bus. It usually happens in a bus, but like in Mr. Heart, it happens in a car.
Yeah.
Right. So like this involved no transportation, transportation free head shoulder thing. Love
so
it.
Good.
Here for it. Obsessed with it.
That whole scene was that like whole episode moment where it's like it was just like sweet. Like there was so much sweetness. Like the moment where they're talking about like they both love like rom-coms.
Right.
Like, it was just so wholesome, which is what you want from like
they're
a high
16.
school. Yeah, it's what you want from a high school BL. Like you want the like coming of age, trying to figure things out. Like
it's fully a K-drama, and I'm so here for it. And so moving on from that, I think the next big thing is this school carnival. This is the first time we've seen an introduction of like a prince competition, which is very Thai BL.
Yeah.
I was like,
the new light,
the sun and the moon. Like, is this a sun and moon situation? Like, not to hark us back to 2 moons again, but like. So that was a very interesting plot point for me because I was like, I have watched many K-dramas. I've never seen this happen before.
I wonder if it was a nod to the ties where it's like, hey,
I don't know. Anybody who went to high school in Korea or has an insight, if you know, please tell us. I'm so curious, like, where this came from because again, I am not Korean, didn't grow up in Korea, don't live in Korea. So I don't know. It could be a thing and maybe it just doesn't make it into the dramas.
It had a little bit of a like talent show vibe or like a pageant vibe.
It was like a pageant.
Yeah.
But they say that like it's when they're introducing it, which is like a very cute moment with the teacher. He explains it's to pick the most handsome and popular boy in the school, which is straight up the sun and moon competition or moon and star, whatever, depending on the Thai drama you watched.
Yeah.
So that was a very interesting moment for me that I was like, where did this come from? How have I never seen this in a K-drama before? But also Namgoong over flowers. I'm obsessed, dude. As soon as that happened, I literally screamed alone in my house, like still in workout clothes from the gym, watching this scene on my phone, not even on the TV.
Nice.
And I literally screamed Namgoong over flowers because this BL just hit so hard for me because I like K-dramas so much. My very first K-drama ever, the K-drama that got me into K-dramas
Yeah.
was the Korean Boys Over Flowers. I watched it so long ago. It was like I had randomly found it. And honestly, it's so bad, but I love it
So bad.
it's so bad. It's awful. And this is why for a long time I was embarrassed to tell anybody that I like K-dramas, because like in my brain, kind of like how the first BL that you watch is like in your brain, that's like the
Yeah.
standard for BLs.
Yeah.
So for me, because Boys Over Flowers, the Korean Boys Over Flowers was the first one I watched, that like is what I assume that people think all K-dramas are like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I love it. I can't do anything about it. I love the Korean Boys Over Flowers.
Which is
So
funny.
whenever he's like Namgoong over flowers,
Yeah.
this is how I know that you are my BL soulmate. Namgoong. Like I would literally die for Namgoong. I would lay down my life for Namgoong. Not
Same.
even kidding. Like Go Jin, let's do this thing. I would die for you. I'm here for it. This is like a Her Private Life. Xi'an is my road. Like Go Jin is my road. Like I'm gonna start a fan site. Like catch me on the internet, y'all.
It's so true. I know. I need to look up more about him because
I'm obsessed.
Chanyi and Woojin were in a idol group together, which is like mind blowing.
What?
And
Thank God it's
like,
no longer active, because I do not have time in my life to stand any more boy groups. Like I do not have time in my life.
It's so true. But yeah, there are always rumors or hope for a second season. However, this one is different because the rumors for a second season was based on the school counselor and his whole relationship.
Yeah.
But I would love to see really any of these characters, but let's give Namgoong like
Namgoong, give him something. I don't care what he gets. I just need him to come, even if it's not a romantic storyline. I just want more Namgoong.
Yeah.
Yes, I just want him on my screen.
Yeah.
If we're talking about a second season, I understand it's not like canon for the novels or whatever, right. But what I would want, honestly, I want them to have all, like, I kind of want it to be like a Where Your Eyes Linger kind of vibe, but like we actually get to see it play out. Is that like they've all gone their separate ways, gone to college, whatever. There was mention that like Daon might get sent overseas or whatever, and so like I want him to have like gone overseas, whatever, for college.
Yeah.
But I really want, and because again, this is a big K-drama trope. It's like a very, very typical K-drama plot line is that it's somebody trying to find their first love again.
Oh, yeah.
And they like don't recognize them, and it's all very annoying. I want that to happen, and I'll even give it to Shinwoo and Taekyung. I want that to happen for Shinwoo and Taekyung, where they've like lost touch and they've gone, and so we have this like huge time jump.
They're like working in an office or something.
Yes. They're working, they're adults, they're doing their thing. And I want like all of these friends to reconnect, because like I want Namgoong to still be friends with all of them and to be like piecing everyone back together. And there's like, this is what I want.
Like married with a kid. Like, let's see him in like dad mode. That would be adorable.
He's stay-at-home dad. Okay. Mom is okay. No, too many things. We don't have time to get into this. Listen, on my Go Woojin fan site that I'm gonna start, you guys, I'll write this one shot and we can all go read it. It's fine. That's what'll happen.
Oh my gosh, I love it. This show is like, again, it truly moved the bar for Korean BLs. Like, I will say every character, the plot, like the whole situation, 100. Like, I love this show.
Last but most certainly not least, a banger of an OST. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a huge Ace fan. I got into them because Chan was on a web drama, which again, I love web dramas. And so I got into Ace a little bit. And so when I found out they did the OST for this one, it is so good. They just did a live performance of it recently, and it is emotional.
Yeah, the live performance is really, really good. This is such a good song. And honestly, it's like, I wouldn't say controversial, but it's a big deal for an active K-pop group that's promoting to do a song for a BL. Like, that's actually a big deal. Because if you're into K-pop, like, you understand that, like, Korea still has leaps and bounds to go when it comes to
Right.
the LGBTQ community. And so it's actually a pretty big deal, just like how Yenin from Pentagon, is rumored to
Yeah.
be in China shooting a Chinese BL, which of course we all know are bromances, but like that would actually be a pretty big deal if Cube kind of like signed off on that
Yeah.
because of just like the whole industry and like the things that happen around that.
Right. Right.
And so Ace doing this OST is actually a pretty big deal, and I'm super into it. I really like Ace because when I was in Korea, I actually like randomly ran across a fan sign they were doing.
Yeah, I think you told that story in some episode.
I've told the story to so many people because it was like the
Yeah.
coolest thing that ever happened to me. Come on.
It is very cool.
And so I decided I will forever love Ace after that.
Yeah.
So this was just like a cool full circle moment for me that I was like, oh my gosh, like all the things.
There's also a really good article, I think for Teen Vogue, that Ace did with the cast of Light on Me. Like they didn't do it together, but they like
Right.
all
They
gave quotes
commented and
for it.
yeah.
Yeah. And Ace, I think maybe the leader talks about how important it was for them to do this and how they really took pride in this because it's important. They have fans who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, and
Right.
it's something that once we start like talking about and incorporating into our daily lives, I think people will start to realize like, oh, these stories are so beautiful and they're important and they're interesting to watch. And so, yeah,
And
I
also
highly
they're
suggest.
universal, right? So like that's the other
Yeah,
thing is like
relatable.
just acknowledging that like it's universal, it's just a love story, which is why I think I like
Yeah.
this so much is like it's just a K-drama.
Yeah.
Right? Like the fact that it's like a boy love triangle
Yeah.
is not it, it's not another layer, it's just a part of the K-drama, right? It's just
Yeah.
a part of like all of these other tropes that make up a K-drama. And I like that so much, which is exactly what I liked about History 3 Trapped is I really felt
Mm,
like the fact that it was two men falling in love didn't really affect the plot. It was
yeah.
just a thing that was happening. Just like
True.
we would never comment on when a man and a woman fell in love in like a mafia drama. You like it would
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
thing that was happening because it's part
Yeah.
of the plot. Like that's what I felt like History 3 Trapped did.
Right.
And that's what I feel like Light on Me does. It's just a K-drama, which I
Yeah.
think is like so cool and important to acknowledge that like these are just universal stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I again, there were moments in my rewatch of this show that I was like, the script is solid. Like, there's so many solid moments where it's like, yeah, this is a K drama, just like we love and
Right.
appreciate, and it is truly so
It's
good.
also funny. Like there are
Yeah,
lots of funny moments and they're like they use the right amount of they use the right amount of sound effects, which like the
yeah,
K-drama editors understand what is an
yeah,
appropriate amount of
yep.
sound effects. And they like I really like the way that they do it when Taekyung and Shinwoo are at the mall and Shinwoo has like read that thing about the perfect first date. And
So
so
cute.
he's like staring him down and just blinking and going like
Yeah,
this. That's where they choose to insert the sound effects,
so cute.
which is so smart. Like we sometimes talk about filmography and editing and how it's important, which I really think it is. Them inserting the sound effects for those nods is actually really important because like if you were to go back and watch that scene where he's literally going, he would look like a serial killer.
Yeah,
It's the sound
solid.
effects that make you as a viewer understand what's happening.
The comedy.
Yeah, peak comedy.
I love it so much. Okay, on that note, I think it's time to end this. Go watch Light on Me. We loved it. Go rewatch it. Watch
Rewatch
it
it. Why
as
not?
many times as possible. Thanks for joining us again. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Go
Do all
follow
the
us.
things. I don't
Go
know. The
follow
stuff
us.
you're supposed to do.
Yes, we are Let's Talk BL. We'll see you next time.